In chapter 2, we see how the Lord, in the hardest of times for the children of Israel, gave the Jews a deliverer that would pull them essentially out of the bondage that they were under, which is what this chapter, what this book of Exodus, is all about. And what this chapter 2 will essentially cover is 40 years of time, which you'll see why in due time. Also, I wanted to let you know that the first 5 books of the Bible were written by Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, and Deuteronomy. We're not in Exodus, and this is chapter 2. And there went a man to the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. No, there was not incest, if you will, but we will learn eventually in the book, I believe, Leviticus, how God gives them statutes and laws, and to marry your cousin was okay. And the woman, verse 2, and the woman conceived and bare a son. And now this was happening during the time that Pharaoh was ordering people, you got to kill the Jews, especially if they're boys. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with the slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's bank, by the river's brink. We're talking about the Nile River here. And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him, that being the child. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, Because I drew him out of the water. Now Moses, he was raised in Pharaoh's house, and he was essentially the adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter. So he learned all there was to learn in the elites of the elites and the rich folks of the Egyptians at that time. This will be instrumental in understanding for the discoveries that have came about since that time, that are a witness and a testimony of the truth that this book is. But anyway, let us continue. And that, no, I'm sorry, but before I go further, and another reason why I mention this is because the Hebrews and the Egyptians had two different systems of measurement, and the reason why I say this is because it was Moses that wrote the first 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, and Deuteronomy. When he mentions the ark of Noah's ark, he writes it in the Egyptian measurements. And by the way, that ark has been found, and I did put a link below the video in the Genesis so that you guys could find out all about the ark. But anyway, let us continue. Verse 11. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. That's right, Moses was a murderer. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, and as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel their father, he said, How is it thou art come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. And that, brothers and sisters, concludes chapter 2 of the book of Exodus. It's about to get interesting here, because you guys are about to hear what the might and the hand of God is capable of doing. And I got to tell you, it is something to fear. For it is also written in this book, the fear of God in the beginning is the beginning of wisdom. And wisdom is essentially a form of application. We'll get into that another time. As always, if you have any questions or comments and something you want to share, leave them in the comments below. And we will see you next time. Peace of the Lord be with you, and good night.